I moved here, got a $700 Dyson vacuum. If I like take a selfie with it, I'll get a couple DMs. Like girls will just be like, nice Dyson, because she thinks I'm doing well.
I know you're DMing girls dice pics.
Dice pics.
Welcome to Cleopatra. I'm Christy Vana.
And I'm Lynn Molly, and this is a podcast about two Middle Eastern comedy queens digging up the funny from the first generation experience.
Our guest today was listed as a Vulture comedian you should know in 2023. He just made his Tonight Show debut, and he has a podcast called Cash Cuties out wherever podcasts can be listened to. Please welcome Fumi Abe. Yay!
Yay! Hello, hello.
Welcome, Fumi.
Thank you for having me on the show.
We're so excited to have you. You were in the middle of quite a, I mean, not that you haven't always been just on a hot streak, but I feel like a lot of really wonderful and well-deserved things happened for you this
nice.
year.
Thank
so
you. Yeah.
It's really exciting.
Yeah, I think I should be more grateful. I feel I've been doing it long enough, or like too long, where it's like these things happen. I'm like, yeah, it's cool, but what's next? You know what I mean? Like, I feel we don't take the time to be grateful. So
Celebrate your wins.
I know you really have to. I feel.
What are you doing to do that?
What do you do to celebrate?
Yeah. Well, I guess you can. We're gonna make you re-listen to this podcast.
Yeah.
And
Well, first you get a cake. I don't know. I feel like it's more of a mental thing, but that's really, I feel that is the real battle in comedy as you surpass our X amount of years, is like, can you stay sane and happy and enjoy these moments as you get, have these little wins?
A therapist that I later left at one point told me that you can't be achievement based in your goals because then you're never going to be happy. And I was like, you're not my therapist anymore.
You fired her for that? Oh my God.
No, that's not. There are other
That's
reasons.
so funny. I've been working on that with my therapist for like the last year and a half. We call it value-based goals. Yeah, it's, I guess achieve. Like, you can't, your goal can't be like, I want 100,000 followers, or like, I want to do this thing on TV. It has to be like something you can control. So it's like, oh, I want to write an hour, or like, I want to put out a video every day, or something like that, where it's something you can control. But yep, comedy. Okay. This is comedy.
Well, we will probably get into your comedy career, but usually we'd like to start off with a history lesson about you. So some people like to start with their grandparents, some people their parents, some with the day they were born. So
Yeah.
let's rewind.
I'm sort of like, I don't even know what to call myself. I guess I'm either zero generation or like 1.5, depending on how you count it. But I moved here when I was 8, so from Japan with my parents. So I wasn't born here. So I feel like, obviously I understand the immigrant experience, but I think a lot of times when people say the immigrant experience, they're like oftentimes children of those people.
Yes.
And that's where sort of a lot of the disconnect is, which I have that too with my parents, but I also remember growing up there and stuff. So I feel like anytime anyone talks about the immigrant experience, I relate, but it's never like at 100%, because I also moved here from Japan.
Right, you had an experience of growing up. So from Japan to here, where was the first place you moved?
I moved to Ohio. I was in Columbus, Ohio.
That's a big difference.
Yeah, it seems random, but a lot of people don't know this. There's like a huge Japanese enclave in Columbus, Ohio, or just Ohio in general.
I did not know that.
Because there's actually, I should re-say this. It's not a Japanese American enclave. It's a Japanese expat enclave. So there's a Honda factory in central Ohio. So a lot of people come to work for Honda, or like companies related to the automotive industry or whatever, which was what my dad was doing. So there's a ton of Japanese people in Ohio, which is so random. And I remember going to like the Japanese grocery store and stuff like that back in the day, and nobody knew what that was. I went back to Ohio last year, and now it's like poppin' and full of white people. And they're eating ramen and stuff. It's so weird. Like, that's always been around, but to them, it's like this new thing they discovered in the last like 3 or 4 years. But that shit's been around since like 1998 or whenever it is.
Ramen, just the concept of ramen in Ohio.
Yeah, ramen. Like they had stuff like that. You know, it's just nobody wanted to eat it 20 years ago.
There is a very bizarre white obsession with Japanese culture. Is that odd? I feel like we don't have that with Arab culture. I don't feel like people are like making pilgrimages to Syria.
I bet there are.
There's definitely fetishists, but I feel like it's a different brand when it comes to
if
Japan.
you're like a white person who is obsessed with Arabic culture or whatever it is, it right off the bat, it sounds weird because this is not to throw shade on Middle Eastern culture, but there's not like a ton of soft power, right? Like there's food obviously, but I think with Asian culture it's a little bit easier because there's like video games or like K-pop or whatever, so you can like mask it in that, be like, oh, I'm not just trying to fuck your women, like I like
Right.
I like BTS or whatever it is, you know. But I think with like a lot of
Sounds like we need to start drop the podcast and start a video game.
Yeah, sounds like that's what we got to get into. Soft power.
Forget the
is.
pyramids, okay? We're over it. All right, we need a new app. I don't know.
Soft launching, soft power coming this December.
2 Middle Eastern
AKA.
comedy.
Yo, that's what y'all need. You need some soft power, man. Yeah.
Sounds like some erectile issue as well. You don't like soft power, babe? Okay, so you grew up there. Do you have any siblings?
Yeah, I have a younger sister. She's a year and a half younger than me. Very, very different from me. It's so weird. Her whole life, her whole goal growing up was to get married and have kids. I just remember that from.
Wow.
Yeah, she was like one of those girls who was just like wanted to get married.
Also kind of an achievement-based goal when you think about it.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just interesting because she was engaged and then like that guy like cheated on her or something. She caught him on Tinder or something like that. And they like broke up. And then she found a husband like immediately after that. Now she has kids. So she did achieve it. So it's not a healthy goal, but if you achieve it, it feels good.
Okay.
You know?
Okay, Uncle Fumi.
Yeah. But we were pretty like we weren't very close growing up because she's only a year and a half younger than me. So she's only 1 year below me school grade wise. And I don't know if you guys have siblings, but like when you're too close, it's like weird because she like dated a couple people in my grade and stuff.
Oh, any of your friends?
They weren't like my friends in high school, but like
After that, they weren't. Yeah.
Yes, I just remember like she definitely had sex before I did, for sure.
Wow.
And I think like that was weird because I think you're always like as an older sibling, you're like shitting on your younger sibling.
Right.
But then when that happens, that's like the ultimate card, you know? So
Right.
you can't really.
You can't
beat them
bully
up
her
and- Yeah,
or pick on
I
her.
know.
She's like, go to your room, virgin.
Yeah,
And you're like, "Oh,
exactly.
okay."
That was a weird like change in dynamics, power dynamics. Yeah.
I mean, you got to be on late night before she did, so there is that.
Yeah.
Got her
yeah,
back.
Yeah, I bet she really gives a shit about that now. As a 32-year-old.
Is your whole family still in Ohio?
No. My family's story is so hard to explain. My parents live in Mexico now because my dad's job, he keeps working with like car companies, and there's like a bunch of car companies in Mexico, which is so crazy, by the way. I visited them. I forget where they live. They live in some place called like Irapuato or something like that. It's like really dangerous. There's a lot of gangs. I saw so many gangs when I was there. They dress like the police to fool you, but they have machine guns. It's so crazy. Mexico is so crazy. I know that all the white girls are going to like Tulum and shit, but like if you just go to regular Mexico,
Right.
it is wild. They have a lot of maybe top 3 like cartel per capita vibes where they live, but they live in like a gated community. But because there's a lot of Japanese companies, car companies there, they also opened up like their own little Japanese grocery store there. So I went down there and there's like a random Japanese grocery store in the middle of Mexico. So it's interesting how like when immigrant communities move, you know, to wherever country, they just kind of like make their own thing going on.
So where you were growing up, what was your high school like? Was it diverse? Was it very Japanese? Was it?
No, my high school. So like there were a lot of Japanese people in Columbus, but the suburb that I lived in didn't have a lot of Japanese kids. And I think my parents put me there so I could learn English faster, because there was this rumor that if you sent them to Dublin, which is like a better school district but way more Japanese kids, that the Japanese kids just kind of like hung out with each other and they were speaking Japanese and they wouldn't pick up on English or whatever. So my high school is very like, I don't know if you've ever seen like a Disney original movie, but like that kind of vibe, you know, very white, like the high school football.
One of everything.
Yeah, like the quarterback dates a cheerleader, like very stereotypical in that. So I was trying to like just survive in that kind of environment. I mean, it was like, it's the Midwest, so it was fine. There were definitely like a lot of weird microaggression moments, and I think that ultimately led me to wanting to do comedy, or at least get approval from strangers, you know? I think being an immigrant already feels this like I'm an outsider thing, so you're like, oh, please like me. And then on top of that, if you go to a school like that, like I think it's one thing if you grew up in like Queens, New York, or even LA, where you could argue that a lot of Asian culture is LA culture, or a lot of Mexican culture is LA culture. You cannot have that argument in Ohio. You know, it's very much like bonfires and like football games and like s'mores and
Did you lean in and join the football team?
No, I did play lacrosse for a little bit though.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you did lean in.
I did lean in.
I carried around a football everywhere. Does that count?
Well, I was so small I couldn't play football, but I played lacrosse until I broke my arm, and then my mom made me quit. So I did try. I had really fun moments, but I also had some like really dark moments for sure. But I was a kid, so I didn't really know that they were so dark until after. I don't know if you guys have that as adults, where you just have like a random. I call it like the Ratatouille flashback, like a racist Ratatouille flashback.
Yeah,
where you're like
100%.
just doing something as an adult, as like a 34-year-old person, and then you like brush your teeth or something, and then you're like, boom. And
Yeah,
then you go-
exactly.
and you're like, oh my God, in high school, some of my friends had me in their phones as Masa Ching Chong or something. You know what I mean? Like, and you're like, all right,
You're
I
like,
guess
what?
I gotta go to
Oh my
work.
God.
It's too late to say anything, so I guess I gotta go to work, you know? Like,
Yeah.
So I've had stuff like that.
We've said this many times on this podcast, but we grew up in very like white areas, but she was like Italian and I was Latina. So the racism I got was against Mexicans. You know?
Wait, why? Oh, you just said you're Mexican?
I grew up, no, I mean like people just assumed I was Mexican and then had superimposed their own other racist.
Sure.
After 9/11, it was kind of a good idea to go into hiding for most of us. So,
Is that why you go by Molly?
no, I do that mostly because there's nothing worse than being brought on stage as this next comic. You love her. We all know her. It's Lin Ma.
Yeah.
Lin Ma. It's just like, I feel like it discredits your whole
Oh,
set.
okay.
So
Got it.
That was the main.
Oh, see?
impetus.
Yeah. Did you change your name for the whites?
No. I mean, I've never overpronounced it. Like, if you really want to be Arab about it, it's Bahna. But, like, most people can't do ha, so they do the kha. And I would rather just keep it Bana, rhymes with Ghana, and keep it moving.
Yeah.
I have a theory that I think all these little adjustments we make to fit in ultimately hurts us in the future. I feel. Like, I think it makes you... Not that I'm gonna change. Like, I mean, like, my friends call me Fumi, so it's fine. But, like, my full first name is Masafumi. And when I first started comedy, I just went by Masafumi. But it was just, like, it was impossible to, like, meet people. And, like, they would never get it right. And I'm like, this is, like, so inconvenient. So I just started going by Fumi. But I wonder what Gen Z kids are doing now, you know? I bet they're leaning in.
I know.
Oh, yeah,
on their
100%.
names,
I've
right?
been thinking about doing that because technically my last name is Lynn El Malay. It means like Lynn, son of Molly. But like, obviously we dropped it because we were trying to hide. But I'm like, maybe I bring it back. Maybe I like get extra diverse and I get all the scholarships and the awards and the accolades.
Schwarzenegger came to this country as Arnold Strong. And then eventually, so he went
he
by
did?
Arnold Strong for a while. Yeah.
Is that because it's hard to pronounce? Or
Yeah.
because
And
he
then
didn't-
eventually
okay.
he went back to Schwarzenegger.
Arnold Strong suits him though.
It really does. I mean, people be forced in a rebrand, whether you like it or not. You know, people drop the last name and they're like, it's just this now, by the way. And you're like, all right, if you say so.
It's funny when, like, I feel now we feel more empowered to do that. So I have a lot of friends changing their names back to their, like, Asian, whatever, you know, whatever it is. But it is funny to do that in your 30s because...
Right. You're like, it's actually not Johnson anymore. It's Abdul Rahim Rahman.
Yeah.
And if you can't say it right, I'm not going on stage. Thank
And
you
like,
so much.
it's so weird because obviously, like, if you want to reclaim that, I as a progressive person, you want to support that. But it is like, it's so late, man. You know what I mean? Like, there is something about like you got to do that shit in your 20s. And I understand it's not that easy. I don't know. Sometimes when like Gen Z kids like make fun of millennials, I'm like, you know, you guys talk about 9/11, like that shit. I'm 34, like that shit was real.
Yeah.
That shit was so real for a lot of my brown friends, you know. And I feel Gen Z kids were born after that or something, so they don't fucking know, dude. You know, it's been too long.
Did your parents do the Americanized name thing? My mom tried to do it for a little bit. Her name's Mullock, and she tried to go by Mickey. And I was like, Mom, that's more foreign. That's you're
funny. Mickey?
Being a mouse. I don't know.
So my dad's name is Memduh, and so he would go by Manny. He'd be
Okay.
like, hi, it's Manny.
Wow.
And then
Discreet.
sometimes my brother's name is Michael, and so he'd just say his name is Mike. So I'd be like, you even reduced the fake name to an easier pronounced fake name. But my mom's name is Hani Bana. And one time we made a reservation at Benihana's, and he called and he said, hello, Benihana's. I'd like, make a reservation for Hani Bana. And they hung up on him. And then ever since then, he was like, all right, Mike, it is.
Yeah, I've had that, like, I've, like, called friends' homes, and they'll be like, oh, hey, like, hi. Like, this is when I'm, like, in 5th grade. Remember we used to call people's homes. And they're
Yes.
like, hi, is, like, Jeff there? And they go, okay, can I ask who's calling? I'll be like, oh, this is Fumi from school. And then they'll, like, hang up because they think I'm doing a prank or something, you know? Because this is when, like, Austin Powers came out. And there was,
yeah.
like, fuck me, fuck you kind of thing, you know? So they thought I was, like, doing a prank because my name
Right.
is, like, Fumi or whatever. So that happened.
You're like, I'll take my business elsewhere then.
Yeah, fuck Jeff.
I
Yeah.
missed the prank phone call. That was big in the day. Did you do any? I did a lot of prank phone calling. I got in trouble too for it.
You got in trouble?
When caller ID came up, I don't think I fully knew.
You didn't do
caller
*67?
I was young and free, and if Brian K is listening to this, I'm really sorry.
I did prank phone calls, but I had no regrets about them.
You do it at like sleepovers, you know?
Yeah,
Nobody's doing it at their house alone. That's like psycho.
No,
That was like a solo activity for you.
Maybe sometimes you just had an idea and nobody was around and you have to do it. That's the roots of stand-up comedy.
To me, that is the same as running a set alone in your room or something. It's like, I feel you can't do comedy without an audience.
Do you
You've
never
run a
sets?
set alone in your room?
Never.
This is controversial. This
What?
is wild.
Never.
So how do you, like, even before the late night set, you didn't run
Oh,
it?
for that, I'll like, but it's like muscle memory. Like you're like practicing.
Right, that's what I'm saying. You can run a set alone in your room for muscle memory to make sure you got the transitions and.
You do that in your. That's weird.
That's
in your
weird.
room? You have so
Yeah.
much time. Why don't you just do it in the bathroom of the venue or something?
You do it in the bathroom of a venue?
Well, first of all, I never do that. The only time I've done that is not the bathroom, but just to run my set is probably before late night. I ask for 5 minutes and I just say it to myself in the green room or whatever. But like, usually I've never. No.
Oh, I'll run it. If it's like a big show or something, I'll run it multiple times.
Really?
Yeah, the first time I did the Comedy Store, I was so nervous that I was like, I'm going to run my entire set in a mirror with a hairbrush and had like a timer running so that I wouldn't run the light.
Oh my
You also have to
God.
remember that I was a lawyer, so I was all about like, I will not run this like by one fucking second.
Yeah.
You practice how you play.
That's so interesting. See, I feel like.
But obviously, yeah, you need like
Well,
a real audience.
My theory, and I think I'm wrong, and it's hurting me, but I feel if you run it, it kills the freshness, and so I don't like to
Too much,
do
yeah.
it. And even as I'm like running my late night set at different shows, after I think I got it, I'll still ask for spots, but I don't do those jokes anymore because I want to say them for the first time because I want to also think it's funny. So I feel like running it kills the vibe.
I agree that you can definitely overrun something, and I tend to over prepare.
I also think there's something to be said for the fact that you started in New York where you can get up so much more than we can here in LA. So I wonder if maybe part of this is because we've started in LA that sometimes like our living room is the place.
I mean, I think like practicing and like preparing, that's a very like immigrant thing. I feel like over preparing.
Yes.
But the weird thing about stand up is that again it can kill the freshness, and so you have to be like, oh, I'm not allowed to practice this as much, you know. And so like that's what's been interesting is like you have to almost go against what you want to do because this isn't like a job interview,
Right. And it's the art of being able to be spontaneous and in the moment.
Yes, you have
And
to
if
practice being in the moment, and to do that you cannot prepare. You have to not prepare a bunch of times, you know.
I have a question on late night. If you like stumble on a word, which like rarely happens, like I feel like, but every once in a while you do a stand-up set and you stumble on a word, that goes on TV.
If you really stumble and then you start again, they'll probably cut it. Like,
Okay.
a lot of times if you're watching late night sets and you see a cut to the audience, they cut something. A lot of times. If you don't see any cuts, nothing, it was fine.
It means you're perfect and you won comedy.
I mean, they might. Yeah, you win comedy and then you get $500.
that's it. Plan your future.
I saw something crazy when I was working at Corden. Sam Morril came in to do a late night set, and I saw the most like professional gangster shit. He was like doing his 5 minutes, and his premise on his last joke was so funny. People like wouldn't stop laughing, and the laughter stepped on his punchline of that joke, and so you couldn't hear it. And then he recognized that, so he does the joke. And then he looks at the camera and goes, hey, I'm sorry, can I take that again? And then he just does that line again, gets a laugh. And then so it's easier for the editor to just cut to, you know what I mean? Because he's done it so many times.
That's amazing.
And I'm like, wow, if that happened to me, I would panic and be like, goodbye forever. I put on a
Or
wig.
be like,
and,
shut up.
Yeah. Like I would just never
Ruin the
be
vibe.
calm enough to be like, oh, wait, this is edited. So I can just be like, oh, I'm sorry, can I do that again? Like, you know, even your segment as a stand-up is as editable as James's monologue, right? Like everything is editable. And just the way he was composed, I was like, that's experience. Like that, you cannot fake that, you know?
That's amazing.
I was very impressed by that.
An amazing story that will never see the light of day because I edited it out. Everything is editable. But that's okay. So you were in Ohio, and then when did you leave? Did you go immediately to New York?
I was there from 8 to 18, and then I moved to New York for college. I went to NYU.
Great.
And then I was in New York from 18 to 31. I grew up in New York pretty much.
Wow.
I don't know if I'm allowed to say I'm a New Yorker,
You
but
are
I
allowed.
feel like I am.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely are.
Yeah, my entire 20s.
What
And then,
was your major in school?
Oh my gosh, I just didn't know what I wanted to do. I was in, like, before I got into comedy, I was like really into music. I was in like all the music classes. I played multiple instruments, but I never had the confidence to become like a professional musician, nor did I think I wanted that lifestyle. So I found this major at NYU called music business, which is a total scam. There's a lot of colleges.
Music business.
It's a total scam. A lot of colleges have these weird majors that like kind of lure in students.
Right.
Emerson College, where I went now, has a comedy major. So
Yeah, it's all
agree.
scam, right? Because it's so funny because when I graduated, I was like, oh, I want to work for like Spotify. And they're like, econ majors only. And I was like, I should have just studied econ. This is so dumb. Anyway, so I did that. Also, because you didn't have to take SAT2s for whatever reason for that major, and I was like sick. Like I was like a bad student. I was like I don't like studying. So, but the whole point of NYU is that you're just in New York. So like I turned out fine. I ended up working in advertising for a long time after that. So it was fine.
What was your turning moment for stand-up? When did you get into that, and how did that happen?
Going back to, I'm very stubborn. I'm not very smart, and I don't like to work. I always had a problem. If I didn't give a shit, I don't want to do it. I think my parents saw that as like bad behavior. But
That is bad immigrant behavior for sure.
it is.
Yeah.
But really it's long term wise, it's good because you are being honest with yourself. And I think I worked in advertising for a couple of years, and then I was like, wait, is this life? Like I was like 24. I think I was making like $60,000 a year, and I was like, oh, this is like a lot of money for someone who's young. This is like, I don't know, back in 2012, so back when that was like a respectable salary. Now you can't do anything with that kind of money, but I was like, oh cool, like so we go to work, and then we like go to happy hour, and then we like try to get chicks. Like, is that all of life? We just do this every day. And I think for the first couple of years, yeah. And then like we just go on vacation, we post about it on Instagram, and like that really started to like depress me. Even though it's so funny because I'm talking about it as if I was a corporate man for like years. I was doing corporate for like 2 years, and I was like, this is I don't want to do this. I don't want to ever do this. And I saw my dad do it. My dad's been working at the same company for like since he was 22. He's never quit this company, and so he's like a company man. And I just never wanted to be like him. And so I was like, I have to do something. And then at the time, I was like, maybe I should go back to grad school and do something else, or maybe I should move to like a different country. And then I was like at this bar in the Lower East Side called Three of Cups, which I don't think exists anymore. It's now an Emmy Square Pizza, Detroit style pizza place. They had an open mic there, and like I didn't know that, so I was like at this bar with my friends, and an open mic night started happening around us, and it ruined our evening.
As it always does.
Because it
happens
was so bad. I remember it was so racist. I remember some guy doing crowd work on me. Because there was like there's only New York open mics. There's only comedians,
right? And
then like random people who didn't know an open mic was happening, and then some guy like referred to me as Nintendo face. And I was like, what the
fuck? And now you're.
I laughed. I was like, okay, sure, like whatever. But it was like so sexist, so racist, so bad. It was just so fucking bad. And at the time, I'd been just like writing down like weird ideas in my notebook app, and I was like, "Oh, like I didn't know you could do stand up. I've always liked comedy.
Yeah,
I just didn't know you could do it so easily.
Right. The barrier to entry was so low.
Low. It's inappropriately low.
I didn't realize how low it was until I started.
I mean, it's like it's problematic how low it is. Like anyone, there were so many people who I'm like, "Oh, this guy's gonna shoot this play else like after this mic,
but
right?"
That's
this is
also so magical about it that like
this potential shooters.
Yeah, the potential. Yeah.
It's magic.
It's how I get my thrills.
But it's like the even playing field. Anyone can start. Like it doesn't matter like how much money you have or
That's true. You don't have to like pay to take an improv class or something. That's true. So I went back the next week, and then I prepared 5 minutes, and I did it, and I just
at the same mic
at the same place because I didn't know where else to go because I didn't. At the time, there were like websites.
Did you run your set before those 5 minutes, or how did you feel doing your first open mic?
I think I did run it.
Yeah,
I remember taking a shot, and I did it. It was 5 minutes. I only got 2 laughs, but it was like enough that I was hooked.
Wow.
And then I just never stopped going after that. But I really didn't think about it as a career or anything. I didn't even know comedy was like stand-up was a thing until the week prior, right? So a lot of people, they'll like go to NYU and study like comedic writing or whatever.
Yeah.
They're like, I want to be a TV writer. I want to be, I think a lot of people do have those aspirations. I had zero. I was just like, oh, this is fun.
I think that's pretty common for the, immigrant experience because our parents didn't grow up watching stand-up comedy. I remember when I started, people were like, do you like Bill Burr? And I was like, what's that? I've never heard of one.
Yeah, I didn't even really like, I knew who Jerry Seinfeld was, but I thought he sucked. I remember that was my whole thing. I would watch his stand-up and be like, this sucks. But then I realized everybody's just copying him. But there's like better versions of him.
Were you
now.
watching older Seinfeld, newer?
Well, he doesn't have any new stuff at the time. He didn't have any. This is like 2014. Like,
okay.
I'm just watching whatever's on YouTube.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, I was just like, this guy's so hack. I just remember thinking that. And then you start doing comedy. You're like, oh, everybody's just copying.
Right.
He's like the
It's
Play-Doh.
hack because everyone was trying to do it.
Yeah.
The exact same.
I like really wasn't into the comedy world at all. Although I did watch a lot of stand-up growing up, but I was watching a lot of Def Jam. I remember that.
Yeah, Def Jam. I feel like, anything that was on network.
Yeah. Wait, but where'd you guys grow up again?
I grew up in New Jersey, outside the city.
New
My parents worked in
Los
New York.
Angeles, California.
Okay, but see, if you grew up in LA, I feel like you do know that entertainment is a thing. Because I think when you grow up in the suburbs, the problem is none of your friends' parents are TV writers or whatever. So
Right.
you don't even know.
I knew entertainment was a thing. I just didn't think I was eligible for it because I wasn't like a pretty thin white woman or a man. I didn't see a place for myself. Like I was looking at white men.
You were having those thoughts as a young person?
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Really?
100%.
You guys are so smart. I didn't even think about that.
Speech and debate growing up, not to brag. And
Go off. Okay.
And I remember I did dramatic interpretation and there was a comedic interpretation. And I specifically remember being like, oh, comedic interpretation is for the boys. And only the boys did comedic. I didn't even think that I had
The women could be funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't even think so, which is so devastating.
Wait, but didn't you have friends in high school who were like women who were like so funny?
I knew women could be funny. I saw like a distinct line in between like what an industry, I thought like it was only a very specific, Lucille Ball or like very few exceptions could do it. And then, but the default was male.
Sure. Also at the time, you don't even know there's so many levels to
Right.
stand up. I remember there was a comedy club at the mall I used to go to called Funny Bone. And I would see the posters when I was in like high school. And there was a guy named like Christopher Titus or something. And I was
Yeah,
like,
Chris Titus.
I was like, who
He's
the
still
fuck
around.
is? I know him now. But at the time, I'm like,
Sorry.
I remember laughing, be like, if you're not like Chris Rock, like, why would you do this? Like, who would come see Christopher Titus? I legit thought that because I'm
Wow.
like, why would anyone go see anyone famous? Like, that's so weird to me.
Yeah.
Because to me, it was like, you're Dave Chappelle, you're nothing. Right. So because I'm just looking at comedians on TV and stuff. So like, yeah, I mean, I knew stand up was a thing, but I had no idea like you could do it on a level that's not astronomical. Like you don't have to be Kevin Hart to do it or make a living and all that stuff. So there's a lot of things I think like working against immigrants in that way. Even if you're interested, you're just like, oh, well, you can't, that job's not available for me because there's only one job and that's taken by Jerry Seinfeld or whatever,
Right.
And how was telling your parents that stand-up was what you were doing in a path?
I didn't tell them for a long time. My parents know I never listened to them. I don't know if you guys had this realization. I remember my mom had cancer when I was in middle school. I had to go to the doctors with her and like translate everything. So you have to like kind of grow up faster. And at a certain point when you turn like 16, I think you have to stop. You're like, oh, I'm like smarter than my parents streetwise in America. Like they cannot help me. They don't know anything about American college applications. They don't know that like extracurricular activities matter. They don't know what National Honor Society is. You have to really look out for yourself. And so I stopped listening to my parents in like a respectful way after I turned like 15.
Wow.
And that was like a huge point of contention. They like couldn't believe that I would listen to them. But I'm like, well, I'm not going to listen to you because you don't know what you're talking about here.
Right.
If we were in Japan and I asked you how to do something, I would listen to you. But like,
Wow.
that's just the truth, And that sounds super arrogant, but I think a lot of immigrants go through that.
Yeah, that's a huge
Yeah.
thing.
I mean, I'm sorry, I don't know if smarter is the word, but you're just like, they just don't know.
Yeah.
And so you have to look for that information either on the internet, through yourself, or your other connections, your friends' parents, or
Right.
whatever.
There's elements of strategy about that they wouldn't necessarily
Yes.
appreciate it without.
Yeah. So when I started comedy and they eventually found out, like, they were like, oh, you're going to quit your job? And I'm like, I don't know, maybe. But like, they didn't really ask a lot of questions. I think for a while they were like, well, as long as you like keep working in advertising, like, we don't care, And then I don't even think they knew when I quit full time. I went full time comedy like right when COVID started, weirdly.
Oof.
But I don't even think they really knew. I don't even think when I got my first writing job at Corden, I think they thought it was like a 3-week thing. I don't think they knew I was there for like multiple years.
You told them it was summer camp?
Yeah, I don't think they know how it works.
Yeah.
I think they thought like, oh, you like wrote this one thing that's on YouTube and now it's done, you know?
I feel like that's the hardest thing for me with my immigrant parents. It's that these wins that are so huge for me don't translate to them because I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm working in a TV writer's room.
Yeah.
And they're like, but only for 3 months?
Yeah.
Don't you want a long-term job? And I'm like, no, I've been spending my entire career working up to working in this TV writer's room. And they're like, but it's only a 3-month job. And it's so devastating.
Oh, for sure. But it's weird too because as you get older, you're like, I guess they're kind of right. It is only 3 months. Like, did I just work my entire 20s so I can work for 3 months?
Yeah.
Like, you have to consider all these things. Yeah, I think like not being able to share your wins is like tough. You know, my parents were actually here last weekend when I did Fallon, and I didn't want to do that weekend because they were going to be in town, but they're like, well, we want to put you in before Christmas, and that's the only. And I'm like, well, I can't say no.
Well, that's kind of nice.
So
that they
for
were there
one day, I left LA when they were already here. I just left them with my girlfriend, and I went to New York to do Fallon, and I came back immediately.
Oh, so they didn't go see you do Fallon?
No, and they were like, what show are you doing? And I go, Tonight Show. And they go, doesn't ring a bell.
Wow.
Oh, it stings. It's too real.
Only the Everest.
Well, because they just don't watch American
Right.
TV. They're always watching like Korean dramas or whatever on YouTube, or you know what I mean? Like they're not interested in that, which I totally get. So like not being able to like communicate to them how big of a deal something is I mean, I don't really care anymore, but I could see how that could be hurtful for someone where, you know, they seek a lot of validation from their parents.
Right.
You know?
It sounds like you kind of ditched the validation seeking a while ago.
Yeah, but I also
them.
think I think it's like I don't know. I think it's like a weakness, to be honest with you. I actually envy those who have like a much closer relationship with their parents, and I envy those who fight with their parents more, because to me that means they care, even if they care in the wrong way. They're like thinking about you a lot. I think with my family, like, you know, I was just in Japan a month ago, and they don't even like my extended family. Like nobody asks me about comedy, and I'm like, I'm always so flabbergasted because I'm like, I'm the most interesting person at this table right now.
You're like, I'm a big
literally
deal back
the
home.
most interesting person, and they don't really ask me. They're like, oh, how are things going? They don't ask me any specific. So I don't know if it's because they're like, oh, we won't understand. It's strange, but also like kind of hurtful in a way.
Yeah, to not have them have a genuine curiosity about.
But then
what
sometimes
it is.
I'm like, maybe I did that because I just didn't listen to them, or like they knew that their feedback would affect my life in 0 ways. You know.
I feel like my mom will brag more to relatives that I can like cook knafe. It's like a famous Middle Eastern
hilarious.
Then they'll like brag about anything I've done career-wise ever.
They kind of talk about it like as if it's herpes or something. You know what I mean? Like it's this shameful thing.
The last time I went home, my boyfriend was like, you know what? This might be on you. Like maybe you're not selling it enough. So he turns on Netflix, because I worked on a Netflix show starring Michelle Obama, and they made me like a little extra.
Oh, the
in
mochi
it.
one?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that was great.
So there's like a scene where I'm like dancing behind Michelle Obama, and my boyfriend was like, look, that's Lynn standing next to Michelle Obama. And my parents were like, that was it? That was so fast. That was it? When are you going to be the star? He was like, okay, you win. Sometimes it's nice to bring your significant others home because they're like, no, that's real. Your feelings are valid. That was a weird response.
Yeah, I'm surprised they weren't like, why are you dancing behind her? Like, why don't you ask her questions or something?
like you could have asked her about the most hard-hitting things, and you just did. You're like, Mom, there's a script.
Could have taken a picture, but you're dancing. Yeah, it is funny. Like as I get older, like I do see the way they see things, and I just find it funny now. When I did Fallon, two of my friends who work there, they came into the green room to say hi. They're both writers. They're both immigrants. One's from Russia. I told them the story about how my parents didn't know who Jimmy Fallon was, and then they shared with me about their experiences telling their parents they worked for the Tonight Show. And one of their moms was like, yeah, I checked that out on Hulu. Not my thing.
Not my thing.
And then the other one was like, you know what? I've never seen it, but maybe I'll check it out or something. You know, like it never occurred to them to watch the show that their son works on. But I also, I don't know, because I never became a lawyer like you did. I don't know what that full approval facial expression looks like from my parents. Like you've probably experienced it.
I have, yeah. I am very lucky in that. I mean, I've been a little bit more quiet, obviously, in the last 2 minutes because my parents have like expressed they were proud of me. My dad passed away.
Fucking boo.
New co-host of the podcast. Welcome.
I'll see myself out. But I do have to still translate to them. I mean, okay, also my dad passed away, so I'm really just talking about my mom at this point, but translate to them like why I keep needing to go to open mics. You know, I'll be like, I'm doing another open mic. She's like, oh, another one? Like, yeah, you kind of had to keep, you know. So there still is like a loss in translation where you have to explain what the art form is, but they've never been like, oh, this is such a waste of your potential. Like, I feel like my dad was into it. Like, I had like a really lucky opportunity to be like a small part in a Disney movie like once I started, and my dad was like really excited about that, and he was like, okay, Christy, when we're gonna see you on Disney Plus again, you know, like he was like a lot more excited about that, and he came and saw me at the Hollywood Improv, which was really fun.
Oh, that's so nice. Yeah, see, and that's the thing is like I feel obviously not every immigrant parent is cold like that, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like there's I have a lot of immigrant, you know, the ones who are very successful are the ones who have very successful parents. I think from the ones I've met, you know, the ones that their parents are like, yeah, go ahead, do improv in high school. Like those people are like selling shows and stuff now.
I will say when in December of 2019, I told my mom like at some point I really think I'm gonna have to like go for stand up. It feels like something I really need to do before I die on my deathbed. And my mom was like, all I ask is that you do not curse. And I was like, well, you know, we'll talk, Mom. Unfortunately, I'm sorry.
Oh my God.
I do tend to drop a lot of F-bombs, unfortunately. But
when you said, your mom said, you're doing another one, that made me think of like, you know, DJ Khaled's quote is maybe that was like a thing that his mom would say in a negative way, like you're writing another song, and then he's just reclaiming it,
yeah,
like,
exactly.
Like,
another one, comma,
but it's really his mom being like, fuck, our son's rapping again, like
I thought you already rapped. You did it. Get married now. Like, why are you doing this? I think now is a good time to pivot to some questions. Cleopatra viewed herself as a living goddess. Tell us about a time you felt supernatural or godlike. Alternatively, tell us about a weird, random, or useless talent you have.
You know, I was reading this question, and I was like, what an unrelatable question for me, because I never feel like a queen or a king. Do you guys? I just feel like that's my whole thing. I feel like that it's like I wake up in the morning and I'm like, you're a piece of shit, and then I start my day, you know.
For the record, I answered the weird useless talent question for that exact reason.
It's I was just thinking about it. I was like, outside of comedy, even I guess the only time I felt like very powerful is like if you go do a show in a city where there's not a comedy scene, you feel like Chris Rock, you know what I mean? Like I did a show in Ohio once, and I was like, I'm God, because I trained in New York and LA. Like you know, it's not because I'm better than you, just because I just did it more than you know. Maybe in a weird way, maybe that is why I do comedy, just to like feel more than for once, you know. When I read this question, I was even thinking about, I'm like, you know, like I'm constantly having an existential crisis about my existence, because I'm like, I'll order a drink at a bar, and if like the bartender takes too long, and I'm like, God, they don't even fucking see me, man. You know what I mean? Like, I'll just have a meltdown, you know? Even if it's like a busy bar on a Friday, I'm like, fuck, dude, they don't even fucking see me, bro. Like, you know, so I feel very much like a peasant all the time. But I thrive in that. I thrive in peasant energy, you know?
I always think about, did you watch that movie? It was about improv. It had Chris Gethard in it, and it was called, I think, Don't Think Twice.
Yes.
Yeah, you know that moment where he's like, when I go to the grocery store, like, I'm just an average guy. But then, like, I know in the back of my head, I have this superpower that I do every night. And if I didn't have that, then I would just be another guy.
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing wrong with being another guy. And I mean, again, I'm not trying to sound arrogant. I don't necessarily think it makes me special that I do this fucking stupid thing called comedy. But, like, in a weird way, yeah, I just feel so powerless during the day, I guess, you know. But I thrive in that. I love when people underestimate me, and then I'm like, psych, I'm famous. You know what I'm saying? I'm not famous, but like, you know.
I mean,
I feel like
you're not famous.
But I feel like I really get off on that in like a sick way. When
Yeah.
when I like, if I go to like a comedy club or something in a city that I'm not from or something, and they just treat me like garbage because they think I'm like an open micer or something, and then they
Right.
crush, and then they just they treat you completely
Yeah, and
differently.
then they hear your credits, and then you're like,
yeah,
they're
but it's
"Ooh."
like, yeah. I mean, I try to treat everybody equally, with
Right.
respect. But
I treat everyone equally shittily.
yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of like what ends up happening where you don't feel seen. Did you feel like you weren't super seen growing up by your parents or just by the people around you in your community, or where does that feeling come from?
I think it's like a combination of growing up looking like this in like a town that looked like an Abercrombie bag, right? Like that was the beauty standard. So like, I think a lot of it does come back to beauty stuff. I think it does matter. I think it's very important for everyone alive to feel attractive.
I thought you were going to say to be attractive.
No.
I was like,
No.
that's all the time we have.
No, you don't have to be, I'm not attractive, but it's very important to feel attractive, right?
Well, I
think
disagree. You're a very handsome man, first of all.
it's like, but that's, and I'm not even talking about it's because you can hook up. It's really just a confidence thing. And if you're void of that in high school and middle school, you turn out a little fucked up as an adult. And I feel you have to spend some time trying to get that validation somewhere, somehow.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I think even just standing at the bar can't get the bartender's attention. It's like,
Right.
oh, is it because I'm short? Is it because I'm Asian? Or is it because like I'm not hot enough? Is it like, do I not emanate some sort of like energy? Like, I don't know. I'm just like, I'm always so afraid to have like a really weak presence like in life, not on stage, but in life, like when I walk into a room, like, do people even notice,
Yeah.
So I think it all just comes from in high school and not necessarily people not really understanding like what I am,
It's so hard to not have an experience and then not try to immediately shoehorn it into the narrative of your life where you're like, this always happens to me. They're not paying attention to me at the bar because I'm the least attractive person.
Yeah.
Pretty girl always brings an ugly friend,
It is interesting, though, to hear this because my boyfriend's like a standard white man.
Yeah.
And he says he...
Nice.
standard sedan of a white man.
I'm so safe in this world now. He says he goes through life, and the one thing that is both a privilege and weird is that he's just invisible everywhere he goes. He's like, I can be anywhere at any time, and no one's ever looking at me. I'm always safe. No one's ever going to stop me.
Interesting.
And I feel like everywhere I go as a female who's like slightly different looking, I feel like everyone's looking at me all the time. Like I can't go anywhere without like
The proverbial like keys in between your fingers mentality.
Sure.
Yeah.
I wonder if that, I mean, I think a lot of that is because you're a woman, for sure.
Yeah.
There's certain places you cannot go to. That's interesting that he feels invisible. To me, what I hear
he also
is
gets
that
raises without asking, so there is that too.
I think he's not invisible. I think he's invincible. That's what I'm hearing.
Right.
I feel like, I think real invisibility.
Invisible to the police probably is what he meant to say.
Real invisibility is people sort of not taking you seriously or not seeing you as like a threat. They're not,
or a force
they're
to be
not
reckoned
seeing you as a
with,
threat because they disrespect you, right? I think if you're like a white guy in a white area, you're not a threat because they respect you.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. I'm a straight guy. I'm so sorry to quote the Joe Rogan podcast, but there was a really incredible episode with this artist named David Cho. He's like this crazy Korean artist guy.
Okay.
I'm not saying I agree with everything he has said or done, but he is an interesting person to listen to talk to for a little bit. And he was talking about
I'm going to edit that part out. Go ahead.
but he was just saying like how being Asian in this country, you are truly invisible. And what that means is like, and he wanted to use that to his advantage. So what that means is he could just go anywhere in the country. He could go to the most racist place in the country. And the way racism works against Asians is they're not going to kill you. They're just going to ignore you. Wow. They're not going to, you know what I mean? And so
he became a jewel thief.
he just sort of like traveled all over. He hitchhiked and just did all these things. And because no one saw him as a threat. And to me, that's what people mean when they say invisible is they don't recognize you because out of disrespect. It's not out of respect, right? Anyways, so your boyfriend's wrong.
He recognizes it as a privilege, but it is like very interesting to just like imagine that. Okay, so Cleopatra wasn't actually Egyptian. She was Grecian. And she,
Macedonian,
wild, right?
Grecian roots, yes.
Yeah, but
Liar.
she
Can you believe?
went to Egypt and she adopted a lot of the customs. So what's a custom you've adopted from America that you are just really deep in with? Or alternatively, what's a cultural thing from Japan that you can't shed?
I don't know if it's an American thing or a New York thing, but I really learned to like just kind of speak my mind. I also talk shit aloud in front of the other person sometimes. I think that's like a New York thing.
That's a comedian thing too.
But it's not like, it wouldn't be me talking shit to you. It's like if a waitress did something weird to my friend, I'd be like, I can't believe she's just XYZ. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'll like make fun of her to my friend when she's right there. I'll do stuff like that. Like if somebody's rude to me, I'll laugh and make a joke. I'll just start. It's almost like I just do a bit about this person with an audience, and I ignore the fact that you know what I mean. Like,
yeah, that does feel New York.
It's very new. It's just like, you disrespected me, so I'm gonna now do a bit. You know, I'm gonna launch into a bit. So yeah, that's like a thing that I do, and I think it throws off a lot of Japanese people when I do stuff like that, because over there it's all about not disrespecting. But I do think, you know, I cannot say this is a right way to approach life, but you kind of get what you want if you kind of are rude sometimes, you know. And I tried to pick up on that more, because I think for a long time I was like, oh, well, the whole Japanese way is like, don't get in other people's way, don't be rude. But I did that for a long time, and I never got a raise. I never got anything I wanted. And I was like, this is so dumb. I'm just going to be a dick sometimes. Not all the time, but sometimes.
Or just advocate for yourself. Do we, like, I feel like we equate that with being a dick, unless you're saying you want to go extra.
Well, because I think a lot of times when you do advocate yourself, you come off as a dick. And so I can't really control how you see me, you know? Because I think when they see me or someone like you guys, they're like, oh, why is she speaking up? Like, you know, they do think that. Being rude is something that's an American thing that I've started to do. I don't like it. I wish the world wasn't like that, but it is the way it is. So.
I feel like maybe in Japan it wouldn't be as powerful to be rude. Like, you have to do it here to...
Maybe. I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of discussions in Japan right now about, you know, there used to be like this booming economy and like a lot of innovation, but the problem now is like those people who were the shit in the 80s, they're all CEOs now, and they're all about hierarchy. And so they're still the decision makers. Like, we don't have like a Mark Zuckerberg. We don't have like a young mind
disruptor,
because they're not allowed to do that, right? Because of the way that companies are structured. Like, you're not really allowed to speak your mind if you're 25, even if you went to like the best university and you have a lot of great ideas. And I think that hurts you. So I feel like they could benefit from a couple of rogue 25-year-olds who are a little disrespectful, you know?
Right.
But that said, maybe it doesn't work in that world, because then people might not want to do business with you or something like that. But in America,
well, the problem in America is everyone thinks they're that rogue 25-year-old. And they're like, hey, I'm the edgy guy on the comedy show to this lineup. And they think that's their role. And you're like, there were 5 edgy white guys on the show already. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
But
so, yeah, I think in small doses, that's good. And I think in terms of cultures that I've kept, I'm not a big hugger. I don't... I actually think it's a good thing, you know? Now, there's all these conversations about like, oh, he hugs weird, or like Joe Biden smelled my hair or whatever. And I'm like... We be bowing in Japan, okay?
Yeah,
there's
we
like,
be ABB, always be bowing.
We be bowing, and no one's ever complained that I've bowed to a woman. It's actually very respectful. They like it, you know?
Are you still bowing?
I bowed to Jimmy Fallon accidentally. If you watch my tape. Well, I didn't like do this. Like, I didn't like get on my knees and do like a samurai bow. But like, sometimes when I shake people's hand, I'll just be like, you know?
I do bow as well. And I also do the thing where you put your hand over their hand when you shake, like I'm trying to run for office. Apparently,
that's all like presidential shit.
But it's because sorry about in the beginning when I saw you and I gave you a hug. Sorry, I should have asked.
Okay. I if they give me a hug, I don't have a problem with it.
Okay,
but I don't really assume
you don't
want to
be the initiator.
I'm gonna start gently curtsying from now on.
Okay, the next question.
Sure.
Cleopatra was the queen of luxury. What's an item or a thing that you do not skimp out on? Like something you will be bougie about?
Any electronics I will not cheap out on, because I grew up where my dad always bought the cheap vacuum or whatever, and it would always break. And we get another one. And so I just go for the top. I moved here, got a $700 Dyson vacuum. I don't give a fuck.
Ooh, the cordless?
Cordless.
Oh, yeah, I got
He's
that.
just dropping pennies on the carpet out of posterity. He's like, watch this.
Yeah. I've actually, it's so funny. The Dyson is such a iconic thing. If I like take a selfie with it. Like I'll get a couple DMs. Like girls will just be like, "Nice Dyson."
He's a Dyson man.
Because she thinks I'm doing well. You know, it's like
I know you're DMing girls dice pics.
Dice pics. Yeah. They don't care about my dick, but it's really just like check out the animal
Unsolicited
V11.
dice pics are always welcome.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Like any computers, I'll just get the best one because it lasts me a while.
Yeah.
Phones, same thing. I know it's a lot of investment up top, but it's worth it. It always lasts you like a year or two longer. And you're happy with it. As I get older, yes, I want to save money, but I'm also like all about the emotionality of investments and buying things. And like, you need to feel good. I feel so cool in my Prius, man. You know? But I like efficiency. When I see that 60 miles per gallon, I fucking get a boner. Like I love, but that's what gets me up. But some people really like a sports car.
Cleopatra was a known seductress. What's the best pickup line or meet cute you've ever experienced?
My best pickup line, and this is actually a sad reflection of reality because dudes are so shitty to women and their bar is so low. I'm in an open relationship, so sometimes like, you know, I'll meet somebody and then, but I always tell them before because it's kind of all about that. When I'm honest and I say, hey, I really like you, like I'm vibing here, but like I want, you know, like I have a partner, we're in like an open thing and these are some of the rules, but I'd love to keep hanging out. So many times they'll like shake my hand. They'll be like, thank you so much for being honest. And then they'll either fuck me or they'll be like, hey, sorry, that's not my thing, but thank you so much. Like they're just so happy that I was just like, didn't lie to them. So
and then you'll bow.
And I bow, yeah. And it was such a funny, I didn't even really start this until my 30s, but it was a funny realization that this whole time you just have to like tell them the truth. That's kind of it.
Yeah.
Just be nice and honest.
Just like, don't lie.
A really complicated recipe, but like go off king and wear a boa and a top hat and trick them, you know? Remember that whole thing where you're like, you gotta neg, you gotta insult the women.
Did you guys experience that? Because I like,
all the time.
I was around when that book came out. I didn't read it.
I wasn't born yet, but it's like 10 years ago.
Literally,
but like, did you think that book really affected the way people were talking to you?
And I've also called people out who were doing it to me, and I was like, "Oh, are you trying to neg me right now?"
So what do they say? They're like, "Oh, your hair looks weird." Like this,
or they'll just be like, "Nice shirt," and they'll be like, "Oh, are you trying to neg me? Is this like a flirtation thing?"
Yeah.
You know, and then they're like, you know.
Everybody read the first 5 pages and didn't read the rest. Yeah,
we're sold. The Dyson vacuum.
The Dyson vacuum.
Really, yeah.
Dyson is really.
Fumi wants shame on all of us, is what I say. But okay, we have one final question.
Go for it.
Cleopatra and Mark Antony had their own drinking club called Inimitable Livers, where they'd go on wine binges and have feasts. Tell us about a club you belonged to or started.
When I was in high school, there was this show called America's Best Dance Crew.
I remember that show.
Was popping. It was all these dance crews from different parts of the country. They would dance and they would pick a winner. That's how the Jabberwockies got famous. And as like a Ohio kid watching this, again, the thing that sucks about growing up in the Midwest is like nothing cool is there. All your parents' friends are like teachers or like they work for Verizon Wireless or some bullshit. Like nobody's doing cool shit. I don't even think anyone in my high school took hip hop dance. I think it would be racist to take hip hop dance in Ohio. That's problematic. So I didn't even know people did stuff like that. And I remember there were so many like Asian people dancing from, they're mainly Filipinos from UC Irvine, but they were so good. And I was like so inspired. And then I was in the marching band. And so me and my friends were super into the show. All dudes, we stole these like big ass mirrors from the marching band because that's how we practiced marching band. And we made like a makeshift dance studio in my friend's basement. Just like 3 boys. 14, 15 years old, and we would watch their YouTube videos, and like we had like a little dance club. We would like practice their moves for no one.
Adorable.
And we thought we were so cool. We were like, dude, we're just like the Jabberwockies, man. This is
so cute.
crazy.
You never hit the talent show?
No, we were not good. Okay. We were self-aware, but we were having a lot of fun.
Did you ever try to film it and like watch it back and be like, all right, this is where we...
I think it's probably on somebody's like, what was it? iBooks, remember iBooks back in the day? It's probably on someone's like computer maybe, but this is before the cloud existed, so I'm not really sure. But yeah, that was like, we had like, it was like kind of like Fight Club, but dancing.
in that you didn't talk about it and weren't allowed to.
Yeah, because we were so ashamed, but we were having a lot of fun. Yeah,
That's so cute.
That would be fully viral now on TikTok
oh
if you
yeah,
were high schoolers.
So the kids, the basement that we were using is my friend Kevin, his dad. He's not like homophobic or anything, but he just came down there one day. He's like, "Wait, so you guys just like come down here and like dance? You just come down here every day after school and you dance?" And we're like, "Yeah," and they're like, "Okay, I guess that's my son and his friends." Like he was just so confused because he was just like he's like Ohio State football fan, and that's like, he kind of
Right.
imagined his son like
Just making sure nothing
weird's
happening
going on
down here.
I actually think it would have been more normal if you were fucking. That's way more normal than you
Right.
coming down and we're all wearing masks and doing like a Michael Jackson. That's way worse than being gay at the time, I think.
My mom asked my brother if I was a lesbian at one point in time just because I had a lot of girls sleeping over. I think just biggest immigrant fear, I guess.
Yeah. I always took that as a compliment if I like hung out with like a girlfriend. We weren't like dating or anything, but I had a lot of female friends, and like we'd hang out in the room or whatever, and then like they'd be like, "Lauren, you gotta have the door open," and I'd be like, "You don't understand, Mrs. McMahon. Like nobody's fucking me." But it's kind of like
bartenders don't pay attention to me.
yeah, like it's kind of like when you go to the hotel, it's like, "Do you want one key or two key?" And you're like, "Oh," but you're like, nobody's fucking me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just like I
feel the same way when the Postmates person says, "Would you like an extra set of silverware for all of this food you ordered?" And I'm like, yes.
You're like, "I have a family."
Yes, there is a family of 5 here. This is not all for me. And
You can order in bulk. You can want leftovers.
You order in bulk?
I order in bulk.
Why is the vibe
do.
Costco? What are you using DoorDash?
I don't order in bulk, but if I'm gonna pay the fees for like
Yes.
a DoorDash, I might order something for like later
Couple
or
of
tomorrow,
meals. Yeah.
and then that will be two
Yeah,
for,
yeah,
bang for
yeah.
your buck.
I do
'Cause
that.
You are always paying like an extra $30 or $40.
Oh yeah, it's
Yeah.
absurd. Every time you get DoorDash, it's like at least $35.
Yeah, and
me.
I once paid $40 for like a noodle bowl, and I got so mad because it wasn't good, and I just like it like ruined my day because I was like, this is not a $40
That's
noodle
a day ruining event.
A day ruining event
Yeah.
was like a bad $40 noodle bowl. But I wanted to ask, in your business of music major, did you actually have to have any musical abilities?
They did make us submit like a tape, some sort of like a musical performance tape, because it was through the music school.
Okay.
So I think they had to
So
do
it was
that.
you and your friends dancing in the basement.
Yeah. We were doing the PYT routine, if you guys remember.
Chipmunks edition.
Yeah. We were doing that. Yeah,
Is there
yeah.
a future comedy music?
People ask me
album?
that all the time, but I don't know. I don't
Do you
think
feel like you
musical
have a good voice?
My voice is okay. I mean, it used to be a lot better when I would like sing more. It's
Do you
okay.
karaoke bay?
I need to practice. I was actually thinking about taking vocal lessons because just for fun. Because my biggest struggle is like I want to sing all these songs, but they're too high for me, and it would just bring me so much joy to be able to sing Usher at a
would.
karaoke.
True, bring many people joy.
I think that'd be fantastic for everybody involved.
It is fun. I took voice lessons for a little while when I was in San Francisco because I was in the law firm band.
There's a law firm band.
Yeah.
You seem like a French horn vibe girly.
Well, I was a jazz musician for 10, 15 years. I
Before
played jazz
lawyer?
drums. Yeah, jazz, drums. But I was
You
doing it
serious
while
right now?
Yeah.
But
But
then you went to law school
no, I mean I was doing it while I was in school.
as
I was
a
like
hobby.
I was in the
as a hobby,
Yeah.
bro. Traditional.
Yeah. You bet.
What kind of set?
I had a pearl
We love
set,
that.
but yeah, we love a pearl. I was obsessed. Anyway, but the point is,
What kind of sticks?
I wanted the sticks. I had some nice Vic Firth, and I loved plastic tips. I don't know how you feel about those.
I don't like plastic
I
tips.
know.
Weird.
I did like the plastic tips because I felt like you
Ew.
can hit. My opinion, the cymbals and the hat, everything had a little bit more precision, a little bit more of a tactile. I liked them better.
Is there a
Ooh.
comedy drums album coming
Can you
out for
imagine me
you?
just shouting jokes
Yes.
over a
yes,
snare
I
drum?
could. I can very much imagine that.
Just a military.
I don't even have to stretch my brain to see it.
When I think Christy, I think cacophony. The point, though, is the vocal lessons that I took, and I was singing in the law firm band when we would play for charity and do stuff like that. And it was just like so nice to do something and be like, this isn't my main.
Hustle.
Yeah.
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 So
Absolutely.
I encourage you. I think you should do it. And now it's time for our final segment called Dig Deep. Cleopatra famously was played by Elizabeth Taylor in the 1963 film. If your life were a episode of 2 television shows or films crossovered, what would they be?
Who's that one lady?
Who's that one lady?
Who's that one lady? She's in like everything. She's like old now.
Meryl Streep.
Yes.
I love that.
Wow.
You couldn't think Meryl Streep?
I don't know their name. She looks to me. I can't tell the difference between her and the Titanic lady.
Kate Winslet?
I was
They look the
going
same to
to
me.
say Kate Winslet
They look the
or
same to me.
Meryl Streep. That's very eerie to me.
Yeah, they look related. Or
I feel to me they are the same.
are they in the
as
same
well.
age bracket or
Not at all.
Not at all.
No.
We're talking 10, 15 years or more than that.
Yeah, I would say easily.
Easily that.
Easily.
Yeah, her because she's the best. She's the best. She's the GOAT.
She's the
Oscar-winning
GOAT. All
actress.
right, I
I
love
think
that.
she would do a great job.
So if your life were a crossover between 2 TV shows or films, what would they be?
Rami and Boogie Nights.
Wow, Boogie Nights. Okay.
It's like emo but horny. You know what I mean?
You know, I would argue Rami is pretty horny as well.
I'd
Yeah,
argue that emo
Rami's
is
like-
horny.
Rami's like dark horny. Mine's like fun horny.
Okay,
You know?
yeah. The ancient Egyptians were buried with a lot of their treasures. What would you like to be buried with? And
Oh my
also, what would you like your legacy to be? And or what would you like your epitaph to read?
So many questions in
I
one.
know, I'm sorry.
So sneaky.
The 3-parter.
I know.
Yo, we gotta get a big ass casket because my Prius is going in there. Okay. I love my Prius so much. In fact, I love it so much. I recently bought like a, you know what? You know this thing, the shift knob.
Yeah.
I like took it off and I got like a Fast and Furious one. It's like this long and it's like metallic blue on a hybrid.
Wow.
It's so slow. I love that car so much. I'm like,
Nobody's stolen your catalytic converter?
no, I think it's knock on wood, but I think
Okay.
I have the model that's like harder to get
Okay,
because it's like
good.
the smaller one and it's like a newer model. As soon as I get like another writing job, I'm gonna buy rims for it. It's gonna be so tight.
Why don't you just get buried in your Prius?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Maybe that's
that makes
cheaper.
sense.
Just bury
is-
the
Yeah.
Prius. Yeah.
Get a bulldozer and a Prius. Put me in there.
Driver's seat or in the back?
Trunk naked, tied up, horny and fun.
Yeah.
So the harder question, what's your legacy? What do you want your epitaph to read?
My legacy, Fumi Abe. He did his thing. I don't know. I feel like I'm
Love
just
it.
doing my thing, man. You know,
He was finally seen.
he was finally seen. I did this podcast recently where we do this whole segment where we talk about your life and they try to figure out what your memoir is about and what it should be called. My book, if I ever wrote a book, I think it would be like a guide to self-love because I hate myself so much. So it'd be like a guide to self-love. My title should be from the Grey's Anatomy meme. You know the one that goes like, pick me, choose me, love me? You know that one?
Yeah.
So it'd be pick me, choose me, Fumi.
Aww.
So maybe that.
That's so cute.
Yeah, it'd be a cute little tomb.
I love that. Fumi, that's the end of the episode. I cannot thank you enough for being here. You're
Wow. Thank you so
amazing
much for
and
having
so
me.
fun to talk to. Where can people find you? What's coming down the pipeline in 2024 for you?
Thank you for having me. Please find me on all the socials at the Fumi Abe. That's TheFumiAbe. I post clips and shit, so check it out. Check out my podcast, Cash Cuties. We look at our friends' credit card statements and judge their spending habits with love. And I'm also on tour. You can go to fumiabe.com for tickets and see where I'm going. But Irvine, California, January 10th. Dallas, Texas, March 22, 23rd. And then other stuff happening. But just go to my website.
Fumi Abe, check him out. We'll put his stuff in the show notes. We appreciate you for joining us for yet another episode. I've been Christy Bonna.
I'm Lynn Molly.
And I've been Fumi Abe.
Please like, rate, subscribe, do all those things if you like us. Show us some love. And until the next time, this has been Cleopatra. Goodbye.